Hi, everybody. Good morning. It is Melissa Cato here. And of course, as soon as I go live, I notice there's envelopes in the background, all sorts of stuff going on. Okay, here we are. So welcome. Today is Wednesday, March 22nd. Rather than doing my pre-recorded video, I really desired to go live with you all today. So today I want to share some stories with you. And I want to talk about life transitions. I'm sure that you have been there. Maybe you're in a transition right now, and it can be challenging, right? So, I want to share some of my stories, my experiences with you, and provide you with some tools to navigate life transitions, whether it be a change of job, moving, changing of a relationship, changing of a parenting situation. We all go through these transitions, and sometimes they can be challenging, but they're there to learn from. So, before I forget, I really invite you to join me for one of my masterclasses that's coming up. So, there's one this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, March 22nd. And there's another time option tomorrow, Thursday, March 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. And the masterclass is called How to Connect with Your Angels or Spirit Guides. So I'm going to share with you the tools to start really connecting and having a relationship, a communication with your angels. And the fee for the class is $11. And it will be a small, intimate group of people where we'll really connect together, right? I wanted to make it more personal, this class, rather than 100 people on a live stream and you're not getting any attention. So we're going to connect today or tomorrow, and I'm going to share with you and I'm going to mentor you. Okay, so if that sounds good to you, go ahead and sign up at communicatewithangels.com/masterclass. I'm typing it in right now. Okay, if you happen to be watching this video later, go ahead to that page anyway, because I will be doing them fairly regularly. Okay, so life transition. So I want to start at the beginning of my spiritual journey, and that was when I was 12 years old. Okay, I was a pretty shy kid, and although I had some good friends at the time, I was pretty insecure within myself, realizing that now looking back. When I was about 12 years old, my mother was really searching spiritually. She was going through a transition probably at that time. And this was the 90s, so there was no internet. So what she had was a humongous bookshelf packed full of spirituality books. And she was voraciously reading and taking in all the spiritual information that was new to her. And I started being exposed to it through her as well. So one day she asked me if I wanted to have a consultation where I would learn about my angels and my intuition. And I was curious enough to go along with it. And during that session, I was shown a method of asking my angels questions. And I will be honest, I didn't even know if I believed in angels at the time. But I got a response to my question. And I started to realize that I was communicating with something that I couldn't physically see, but I could certainly sense and feel around me. And I had almost a spiritual awakening at that moment that, I realized we live in two worlds at one time, because I could see the room in front of me, the table, the chairs is normal, but I could also see and feel, and I mean see, like I saw something. I could see and feel a spiritual world that was just as real, if not more so. So that set me on a course of a lot of self-discovery. But I was in the spiritual closet when I was a teenager in my early 20s. I would maybe tell my significant other if I had a boyfriend, during those years, but nobody else knew that I was doing this, right? So that was a big healing, and that's kind of a story for another day. But I had to kind of come out of the closet. But what I was doing was I was connecting with my angels when I needed to. I was getting a key word every day, which is something that I teach you how to do. And when I had a challenge or when I remembered to, I was able to ask my angels for support. and advice. So, the first big transition that happened in my life was when I was about 23, and I had done a teaching degree, and I'd done a degree in psychology and a diploma of teaching, and I was all set to be a school teacher. I thought that was my career path. It didn't last long, but anyway. At the time, that was my career path. And so I was trying to get a job as a school teacher in the city where I grew up in, which is Christchurch, New Zealand. Any Kiwis, hi, shout out. And I just kept going to interviews and not getting the job. And this happened over and over again for about a year and a half. And I just decided to throw my hands up and go, what is going wrong here? This is just not working. And during that time, I wasn't connecting with my angels much. So I remember when I really got to that point of, frustration, I thought, oh, let me ask my angels. And cut a long story short, what came through from that was they said the timing is now to move to the UK. So it's quite common actually for young New Zealanders to go and live in England for a while, particularly London, because we can get a visa pretty easily. It's like a sort of a tradition of going out and seeing the world before you come back and have kids. It's sort of the expectation. But I thought that it would be a few years before I did that. But my guidance said, now's the time. And that was scary, right? I got this message from my angels, pick up everything from your life and move to the other side of the world. And I didn't have much money at the time. I was living with a boyfriend that I thought I was madly in love with. How could I leave him? All the things. But I just got to this point where I threw my hands up and said, what I'm doing isn't working. Let me just trust my guides. And so something shifted in that moment. I got into alignment and I made a decision that this was going to be my path. And when I had that energy of commitment and decision, things started to shift around me very quickly. So my dad helped me to get the visa to go live and work in the UK. I got a job in London, kid you not, over the phone from Christchurch. And I remember hanging up that phone and saying, how did I just get a job from the other side of the world when I've struggled and struggled and struggled to get one in my own neighborhood for, nearly 2 years? But it showed me that I was in alignment, right? So within 6 weeks, I was living in another country. And I had an amazing time living in London, traveling around Europe, making amazing friends, etc. So, and there's other transitions that have happened in my life. I could definitely go on. Another one, so a couple years into living in London, it then became apparent that my next move was to move to the United States and to be a part of a spiritual organization there, to be closer to that and to work with getting my certifications and training. But that was really scary too. I loved living in London and I didn't want to give it up, but also I was being pulled to a new life. And I remember when I first did decide to move to the US, I was kind of depressed for a couple months after I did that because I'd given up everything that I knew. And I was like, well, what do I do now? But when you're in alignment, you can ask your angels for guidance. You can get that next step. And the thing about transition is we get upset about the things that we gave up. We want to I should speak in the I, because you may or may not relate to this, but this has been my experience and a habit, right, that I have to heal, I guess, is I'll start to think about the things that I did like from the past. And you kind of lose perspective for what it was actually like at the time. It's like having rose-colored glasses, looking back and only seeing the good things that you're now missing out on, and forgetting that really you were looking for something more, and you've now fulfilled that. So transition is a big part of spiritual development. And intellectually, we tend to think that Spiritual growth should be this mountain climb. I'm always progressing. And that's a concept that's come from the outer, from society. The reality is, as we grow spiritually, we're spiraling upward. Okay. So you go out and experience something new, and then you're going to kind of come back and regroup it for a while and take stock. And then you go out again and experience something new, and then you kind of come back and take stock. And it can feel like you're sort of repeating yourself or not making progress. But as long as you're continuing to spiral upward, you're on the right track. And we're here to learn and grow. We're also part of that learning and growing is healing. Okay. I'm going to be doing some new videos soon, and I'm going to talk about karma and how we're here to heal karma from past lives. Right. So healing means when you're in that spiraling upward process, if you're ready to heal something, it's going to get your attention even stronger and stronger. Hi, Amanda. How you doing? Thanks for being here. If anyone else wants to say hi, please do, whether you are live or on the replay. And I think that right now, as I'm recording this in March 22nd, the energy is really intense. So in the way of healing things from past lives, not from past lives, from the first 7 years. Hey, Rizal, good to see you. From the first 7 years. So if there's something that's ready to shift, it's probably really getting your attention right now. So what is that for you, right? So if you are in a transition phase, and we notice that transition from the things in the outer, right? You might notice a change in relationship ending or beginning. You might notice a change in where you live. You might notice a change in your job situation. Things that were fulfilling before maybe are not anymore, and something needs to shift. And there can be a tendency to want to keep things as they are rather than moving forward and growing, because we're afraid of losing the good things, right? But the benefit of moving forward is that you get the growth that you're here for. Cara says, sending you love from the Netherlands. Thank you. Nice to see you. I love how people on this YouTube community are like all over the world. It's so amazing. So when you can check with your angels on things, you can kind of get over some of that self-doubt. You can detach yourself from it. Because if you're in a transition phase of your growth, self-doubt may come up even stronger than usual, right? Because things feel rocky, you're on shaky ground. And as we grow and evolve through this lifetime, we're going through growth phases, and then we're going through transition phases. We're going through stable phases, and we're going through transition phases. And it's just the way it is. And especially if you're aware of your spiritual journey, you're probably going to go through more transitions, right? You might notice people in your life who don't really change much. You're like, well, why do I have to go through so much turmoil? Well, you are on a more rapid spiritual growth path, and that's a good thing. Okay. So when you can check with your angels, you can get out of your own way and say, okay, what's the priority here? What's the best timing for this? Right. So I even did this the other day. I have cleared a weekend on my calendar where I really want to take a spiritual class for myself. Like I will be a participant. And all these other things kept coming up that would be scheduled on that weekend. And I have to keep checking with my guidance. Is this the highest priority for me? Right? And they may say yes, they may say no. In this case, they're saying, yes, make this a high priority. This is important for you. But it's so easy, right, to let life get in the way and to take over. So having that support system for your guides, you can recheck. You can check and you can recheck. Am I on the right track? Is this the right timing? What's the highest priority use of my time today? So that you can make sure that you're doing your own self-care, your own spiritual growth, and making that a priority. because everything else that you're involved in with the people, opportunities, etc., are all a means to an end. They're a means to an end for you and your growth. So if you're making that, the first priority, the outer, more of a priority than your spiritual growth, you're going to feel pretty down, because that's not what we're here for. And remember, all you take with you when you pass on is what you've put together for yourself spiritually, your growth, your awareness. Okay. So always seeing every opportunity as a means to an end, not an end in itself. I had a situation the other day where my partner, with his job, first, I don't know why they're doing it in March. I thought this was a January thing, but they are renewing health insurance plans. And he was showing these to me because he wanted my perspective to make his decision, but also to see if now or in the future I would be on his health insurance plan. And looking at that, just kind of, I won't go there, but how messed up insurance is in the US, I got overly attached to the material world. I was like, oh, this is so expensive. What are we going to do? How are we can afford that? It's so corrupt. And then I got all upset about it, and forgetting that all of that is just a means to an end, right? Money can be a tricky one because we need it, no doubt, right? But if I'm making that more important than what I'm here to do spiritually, I'm going to feel, again, pretty messed up. So it's always coming back to what's my spiritual pivot point, and then your guides or your advisors on that. They're going to be strong for you. They are going to help you to not succumb to your fears, to not succumb to your old habits. And they can give you a perspective outside of society, what we call the maze, these concepts that we start living by that we just assume is true. And it doesn't have to be. You can live outside of society's expectations, rules, and regulations. You can say, okay, I'm going to play the game, right? I'm going to pay my taxes, but I'm going to be free of these rules and expectations. And the challenging thing when you start to do that is people around you will want to bring you back to society's expectations, because that's how they're living their life. And they won't understand you. They'll think you're a weirdo. So you have to really surround yourself with other people who are open-minded and spiritual, and also keep checking and rechecking with your guidance. Am I on the right track? Is this the best timing for me? What's the priority for me? Right? Start noticing where beliefs about life are causing you to make decisions that are for the outer rather than for the inner, for you. If that makes sense, right? Hi, Tonya from Central Valley, California. Thank you for being here. So I hope that was interesting and helpful. And the last thing I'll say about transitions is we have to trust, right? We have to trust that we're moving forward to what is positive. And you may or may not relate to this, but I seem to be going through something right now where I'm like, oh, but the past was better. Why did I change things? And it's like the train has already left the station, So it's really important to keep regrouping, right? If you've left a job, if you've left a relationship, or whatever that might be, even if it's not a major thing, if it's a small thing that's changed, regroup what you learned from that opportunity and see the growth in it, so that you don't want to go back to the old thing for comfort, but you actually can take the growth with you and move forward to the next opportunity, right? Because we think it's the relationship or the job or whatever it might be, or the old house that was doing it for you, that was fulfilling you. But it's actually not, right? That is you were involved in it, and so it was your growth all along. So in order to be free of wanting to go back to the past, just write down in your journal, what is the growth that I got out of that opportunity? And say, okay, what's my next step? continuing that growth, because that's really what it's about. Nothing outside of you will really bring fulfillment. You bring your fulfillment to opportunities. Okay, we have to start flipping how you think about things. It's not the outside in, it's the inside out. What are you going to choose? What are you going to get involved in? Or do you need to create that opportunity for yourself? Sometimes I do that. I'm like trying to find something out there that's going to be a good fit for where I want to go. And then I realize, oh, I just actually need to create it myself. I've done that with friendships lately. I'm like, oh, I'm going to create a book club. And then I have friends every month, at least once a month. So things like that can happen as well. Okay, so let me know, guys, if you have any questions about anything at all spirituality. And it was so nice to share with you today. So I want to invite you again. I'm doing a masterclass today and tomorrow evening on how to connect with your angels or spirit guides. And I've changed it up a bit. The class is $11. And that way I'm going to be working with people who in a smaller group. And we're really going to go through and connect with each other, and I will mentor you through the process. So I'm going to make this more personal, more connected. It's a Zoom call, but you will be, there with the group and really learning and growing together. And that for me is the most fun and fulfilling thing that I do, working with group classes. Okay, so I don't see any questions. I know sometimes there's a delay on the chat, but so wonderful to share with you. Have an amazing day. Hope to see many of you on the masterclass this afternoon or tomorrow evening, and have a good one.